And welcome back to the Life Illuminated podcast. I'm Maggie Kelly, your host. And today we have the honor and the privilege of welcoming Mariko Frederick to the show. Mariko works to help usher in a higher way of working, especially as a person who helps us align our professional endeavors with some sort of a profound assignment that has been coming to us through our soul. So welcome, Mariko.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
Tell us a little bit about Soul Priority, your company, and how you got started, and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, well, thank you. Soul Priority is the name of my company. It's also the name of my book. And it's really what we're here to do is the priority of life is to work and live and do everything from the soul. And I think, in today's modern world with, not even modern, but with taxes and money and tech, we get a little bombarded with what is real and what matters. And we get a little sidetracked because we're so bombarded with everything around us in this material world. So I help people align what they're here to do, what their soul assignment is, what they're here to do with the money they make, because let's face it, we need to make money.
And how do you go about doing that?
So I do workshops and I help organizations and companies align their work with their soul. I have something that I was downloaded when I had a near-death experience that I termed the 4 soul archetypes. And through these archetypes, we really can activate and realize how to work, not how, but that we are working from our soul. So a lot of it, as you know, realizing who you are as a soul is just about remembering who you are. It's not new information. We already know this. It's really about how do I connect and not leave my soul at home or meditation studio or church or wherever you go to get spiritual, and to realize your spirit all day long, it never stops, and to bring that forward into every moment and the conversation of life. And so I do that through obviously working one-on-one and working retreats and different things like that.
So tell me a little bit more about the 4 archetypes.
So the soul archetypes, the 4 soul archetypes, that's what I was given when I had a near-death experience, like I said. And, it sounds like, oh, isn't that wonderful? Okay, it took 17 years to figure out what these were. So I had the experience. They gave me something during this experience. They, meaning these 4 higher souls, there's no faces, there's no words. It was what I call thought waves, really the causal, if you're familiar with the causal body, it was just those waves of thought coming through. And it was like 17 years of knowing and living with an assignment on my soul, knowing there was something big I was supposed to do, having no idea what it was or how to access it, knowing I had something to teach. Again, what am I teaching? I don't know. And it was like 17 years later, August 19th at 9 a.m. to be exact. It's like the door just opened and all the information came through. And it was like, oh, it's the 4 soul archetypes. And I had been working with them for years and I was calling them like the 4 gifts of the soul. And then once I got the download, I had already written most of my book. I finished the rest of it. And the way I see it, when you activate these 4 soul archetypes, when you really are living from them, you're activating your soul assignment. And it's that easy. As you know, self-realization, enlightenment, all of that isn't hard.
Yeah. So do you want to share a little bit about this near-death experience?
Sure. Well, I was 29. I think I was like a week shy of my 29th birthday in Lake Tahoe, and I got injured, and I had also contracted Lyme disease, had no idea that was happening. So I was getting all these weird symptoms, and I ended up getting injured to the point where I had a near-death experience. I don't go into huge detail because people get like really upset, but I was injured by somebody practicing medicine with no license and no education. And I kind of leave it at that because people get really upset and it becomes this revenge thing. And I'm like, nope, that person does not get to be part of my story. So they have their own, literally, they have their own karma. As much as we don't have karma as the soul, you do something that bad, you hurt enough people, you got some karma. So we don't worry about her. So when I died, so the interesting thing is I have before that, I was practicing Chinese medicine. And before that, I was working in a neurosurgery trauma intensive care unit. So my idea of death is very Western. It was very like, no, we're fighting for your life, or we're letting you go gently on hospice. You don't die at home. You can't just, like that doesn't happen. Like I had no idea. So it did. And I left my body. And the interesting thing is, when I left my body, I've never felt more alive. There really is no death. So there's nothing to worry about. I know a lot of people, it's probably like their number one fear. And, we are meant to stay here as long as possible. So you want to stay and do all your work and finish up this human experience. You don't want to leave early if you can help it, but there is no death. And it was just the most blissful, joyous reunion with self and God and the universe. It's coming back into oneness with who you really are. And it was, obviously life-changing, but it really woke me up to knowing I was here to do something else, which I will say, as much as it's like, oh, isn't that nice? No, it was such a bummer because I thought I was living the life I was meant to live. Like I was good, I was happy. And then, nope, you're wrong. You're going to do something else.
And so then you pursued that, and that's what led you to where you are today.
I mean, it took a long time to get healthy. Yeah, I did pursue it, but it was a struggle. I was in bed for a long time. I've had many strokes and absent seizures and a lot of issues that went on for years and years and years. And it took a long time. It took 10 years just to get healthy and stamina back to be able to go, okay, I can do a business now. And then how am I going to help people? What is all of this? Because there was so much new information, including a new modality that I've created, a new healing modality. So, it's not like you get sent back with a marketing plan and, a website and any idea how to run a business, you have this in your soul, like I was supposed to do this and now what, right? So it was not a fast process for me.
And so this new modality that you're talking about is what you're doing today.
It is. So it's funny. I call it astral therapy. In my book, I called it higher therapy. And the truth behind the scenes is I'm trying to trademark it because I want to teach people how to do this. I don't want to be the only one doing this. And the trademark for higher therapy didn't go through. So now we're trying astral therapy. And I have a third idea that I know will go through. And so we're just kind of seeing, but right now so this is kind of a different story. One that took a long time to get public with because I felt like, who am I to talk about this? And it is in my book, but it's that I stayed conscious between lifetimes. And I remember everything that happens in between lives. And I thought you did too. I thought everybody remembered every detail because it was how I was born. And, from my earliest memories as a baby in the crib, I remembered coming through and, so that is also a major part of how I developed astral therapy is I have not huge. I mean, I remember it like last week. So for me, it's bringing people up into the higher realms to decondition those limiting human beliefs we have because we're human for like a blink, and then really imprint what it is you want to create through the causal body, working in the higher realms of the causal consciousness and like imprinting you with that. And then coming back down and saying, okay, now start. Now go do your life.
So talk a little bit about this idea of remaining conscious between lifetimes. The minute you said that, I was like, well, exactly. You answered the question as I was thinking it. Well, don't we all remain conscious in between? But you're saying, no, that's not so.
Well, we remain conscious, but we don't all remember it.
Right.
The whole planet doesn't remember everything before they were born.
Yeah, and it's interesting because people who have had near-death experiences, at least from the limited knowledge I have, or people who come back into this lifetime remembering their past lives, usually have the details and the memories of those past lives in their childhood, and they slowly sort of dissipate and disappear as they age.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen that way for you. Not at all.
It's not at all. And it wasn't from my near-death experience that I got it. I got the 4 archetypes in the death experience, and I got to see who I was, and I got sent back despite me saying no 3 times, because why would you want to come back? It's just, so, and I'm stubborn. No, I got the astral therapy And I remember my last lifetime, and I remember my entire experience in between lifetimes just the same as I remember my wedding day. To me, it's just one long life. So there was never this break in my life or a misstep where I was like, oh, I'm born, but I don't remember anything before. I always did. And I thought everyone did. I would talk about it as a kid.
Yeah. Okay. So tell the audience, because you and I seem to be on the same wavelength. I'm imagining that those who are listening are just lost.
Okay.
When you're talking about astral therapy, let's talk a little bit more about what that actually looks like.
Okay. So astral therapy is my modality I've created, and it's me helping people through what I would call a deep visualization. Although for most people, because you were in the astral world, it's like a reawakening or a memory and traveling into the higher realms, going there. And then it is finding if there's a wound, if there's a trauma, if there's something to heal, great, we heal that. And it can be in this life that we're healing something, as far as like something that happened 20 years ago, we can go back into a different life and heal that. And then if you want me to get really out there, some people are from different realms. We're not all from this realm. Some people are from the higher realms, some people are from the lower realms. And so a lot of it is like finding out who you are. And some people are from here. It's fine. Most people probably are. So it's a deep visualization of me bringing you there, seeing who you are. There's a conversation that happens with me, your guides, maybe your higher self, and clearing whatever is not aligned anymore, cord cutting, literally anchoring in new codes. I call them codes. I don't know. They're like golden lights that I see coming in, and then sending my clients back out to do and accomplish the assignment on their soul. And a lot of times it's also anchoring in more money. I mean, like that's a lot of what my clients also desire and need.
Well, I mean, isn't it sort of, I kind of get a sense that for most of us, it's about more money, better relationships, and more time. It seems to be like the three main things we're looking for: relationships, money, and time, for the most part.
Yeah.
I had a thought. I wanted to just see if you could help us as an audience understand how astral therapy is distinct and different from reincarnation.
Well, you're not actually reincarnating. It's more of a remembering who you are. So reincarnation is a big topic, but that's us coming back in order to, I would say, live out your whatever desires you have until you don't have those desires, right? Until you have reached
or whatever you didn't fulfill in this
whatever you didn't
last life.
Yeah. Whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish and do until you realize you don't need to do, and you are, and you've reached that higher state of being. And even then you're going to incarnate on another higher realm. So you're not done. It's not like poof, you're gone. I mean, these higher masters are somewhere. They're just not in our realm. They visit and help. So astral therapy is literally a deep, I hesitate to call it meditation, or it's not meditation, visualization, because most of my clients so far, all of them, feel like I went there and I remember it. And why was it so familiar? And it's because you were there before. I just happened to be the one remembering. I'm not special. We were all there. Some of us were in higher realms. And so sometimes we visit those higher realms. But it's different because you don't have to die and come back. It's just having the experience of who you are without dying. Oh, you're muted.
No, right now, having that experience now, instead of having to die and come back.
Yeah.
Which is why I wanted to bring up reincarnation, because we don't have to die in order to live our highest self. Or we don't have to live this life out and then maybe on our deathbed have some epiphany of, oh gosh, I wish I did this in this lifetime, because it's never too late.
No, well, it can't. Well, so it was for me. So this is why I do what I do. And this is why I can't stop in between lifetimes. So it gets a little confusing. So not talking about my near death in this life, talking about after I died in my past life, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, did my life review and saw the bigger potential in my life, saw what I was here to do, who I was here to be. It's not really about doing, working from my soul, working from my intuition. That's really what I was called to do. And I kept ignoring that throughout my life. So after I left this world, after I died, they showed me and I was like, okay, put me back in. I'll do it. Like, let's do this. And they said, you can't, you died. It's too late and you'll never be that person again. And I remember that. I mean, it literally, like, it just happened. Every time I talk about it, it's like, oh gosh. And I don't want anyone to live that way again. And so while it was too late for me in that particular life, I'm back again and I'm literally living from my soul, teaching other people, like screaming from the rooftops that we need to live from our soul.
Yeah. So, okay. So when you first meet somebody, do you begin with something like a life review?
When I first meet with them, sometimes it starts with an intuitive reading. Sometimes we just go into an astral therapy.
Okay.
And it depends on like how they want to start with me. But it depends. Yeah, it either starts with an intuitive reading, a quick intuitive reading. It's not quick, but 45 minutes of just giving them the download of what they want to know. But a lot of the implementation, the clearing, the stepping into their higher self and bringing that code in, that energy in, is through the astral therapy. So it depends on what they're looking for.
Right. Right. And so, maybe you can help illuminate for us sort of where do people at least in your experience, where do people you feel get most stuck, where they're not able to live their life's or soul's purpose? They're not activating their soul assignment. What is it that keeps us stuck? For the
Fear.
most part. Of course, we're all
For the
different.
most part, no, I mean, so let's just choose your audience. Let's choose the audience that probably have I'm just going to say a slightly higher or much higher consciousness. So we're not talking about the people that are really beginning their human journey and like, what am I doing here? Let's talk about the people that are really searching for enlightenment. They really do want to bring in the higher age. What gets them stuck is a couple of things. One, fear. We're human. We have fear. And the second big thing is what I call your echo. We've lived our life. Maybe you were in corporate, maybe you were a nurse, maybe whatever, you were some professional, right? And now you're not anymore. Now you want to do something spiritual. Now you want to do something different. You want to be an author, whatever it is. The echo is what people who used to know who you were, it's who they think you are. And so when they talk to you, and this is oftentimes your entire community talking to you, but they're not talking to you now, they're talking to your echo. They're talking to who you used to be. They don't know who you are right now, and they certainly don't know who you're stepping into becoming. And a lot of what holds people back is they don't have the support from the community going, I see your future self. I see your higher self, and I believe in that. They only see the echo of who you were. And that is really hard when you're surrounded by that community of people who love you and you love them. And they could be your husband, your family, your parents, your entire friend circle who only know your echo.
It could even be yourself.
Well, oftentimes that's where the fear comes from. Who am I? So that's a different wound that I work on. That's the worthiness. Who am I to do this? I mean, that's how I felt lying in bed thinking, who am I to bring in this message? One, I don't know what the message is. Two, I'm nobody. I'm like living in the mountains. I'm a rock climber, some experience in ICU and Chinese medicine, but who am I to be a best-selling author? I did know that was going to happen. Who am I to do all that? That's not who I am. And yet years later, it is, but it's not better. It's just me being in my truth.
Right. And I think this is really poignant, especially for listeners who are feeling stuck and at a loss as to, what's next. Because that's a lot of who I see is people in major life transitions, understanding they're in transition, but not having a clue what to do next, where to look next, sort of like that, I want to say, drowning in quicksand kind of feeling and almost a panic, really.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, the ground from under me has just been taken away. And now who am I?
Yeah.
And I think that's, as opposed to being afraid of that, I think that, as the Dalai Lama would say, all suffering is an opportunity for growth. This is the place. There's that fine line between scared and excited.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that we're talking about is that fine line. And we can either shrink and go back and say, ooh, I don't know, I'm too scared to try. Or we can, maybe dive in, of course, with assistance and support. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to move from that place of fear into what you may have helped them, understand is their soul assignment, how do you do that?
Honestly, I would say, again, all spiritual teachings are so simple. And I think the first step is just saying yes. That's it. It's just a quiet whisper within your soul. Yes, I'll do it. I remember sitting on my couch when I knew I had to write this book, and I didn't want to share what I knew. I didn't want to share who I really am with the world because everyone thought they knew me and who am I to do this? And it was too scary. And all I could do was just whisper, yes, I'll do it. And I remember just breaking down crying at that yes. But it's a powerful yes.
Yeah, it is. Because it is not just a yes, I'll do it to yourself. It's a yes to the universe. I accept that challenge. I accept that opportunity. I accept that, that yes, I am going to step into my higher self.
Yeah.
I am not going to go and shrink and get small and fall back into my echo self.
Right. And it's a yes of not just doing, because we're really good at doing.
Sure.
It's a yes to becoming something unknown to yourself and to your community. It's a yes to being authentically you on a level that no one's met, including yourself. And that's the hardest work right there, but it's simple.
I think that's also a yes to allowing.
Yes.
Allowing yourself to unfold and allowing others to see that process. Because a lot of many of people I see are in that space of transformation, but also thinking, well, I'm too old, or I can't change completely from being an interior designer to being a teacher. I can't do that at 50. Well, who said? Who said, right? That's that limiting belief you were mentioning earlier that we seem to hold on to, that somehow we're supposed to subscribe to someone else's idea of who we're supposed to be for our entire life.
Yeah. Or what it means to be 50.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's a lot of it. We think we've hit our prime in 30 and we're supposed to be like, grandparents staying at home by 50. And the truth is, for anyone out there who knows, I don't know if you know about human design at all. Yeah. You've heard of that? So, I mean, for those who know they're a projector, like you're just getting started at 50.
Oh, trust
like 50
me.
Like the on button for a lot of people. And 50 is when we go through our Chiron return, right? 52. So we're just stepping into our power. And this notion that we're somehow like, all done by 50 and less worthy is such a false lie that we have swallowed as a society, because we're finally stepping into the wisdom that the world needs to go into the higher ages. And yet we're sort of deemed less important, less sexy, less worthy, less all of those things, especially as women, right? Men get sexier as they age and somehow we get less. And it's just, what about the wisdom? What about the wise women? What about everything that we're bringing by the time we hit 50? I'm excited. I'm going to turn 50 in a couple of years, and I'm like, bring it on.
I know. I just turned 60, and I am it's like I've been shot out of a cannon, literally just shot out of a cannon.
Full power.
I have a girlfriend who said, "Who are you? I've never seen this side of you." And I'm like, "Neither have I," and I'm loving it.
It's just the truth of who you are.
That's it. I'm in the middle of reading a book, and you probably have read it yourself, is Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
I haven't read it, but I do know about it. Yeah,
beautiful. A must read for any woman. The author is an old what in Aztec and Hispanic societies would call a cuentadora, which is a storyteller. And so basically the book is written, she starts with fables, and then she psychoanalyzes the fables. She's a Jungian psychoanalyst. So it's just beautiful because it talks about what we're talking about is the wise woman and where women get their power, and where, if we're not paying attention, we won't notice that we stepped over a part of our power, or we ignored it, or missed it, or somehow poo-pooed it even.
Yeah.
And I just love it. I'm just loving it. It's very thick. It's like 500 something pages. I think I'm only 300 in, but it talks all about this, the wise woman in us. And it doesn't necessarily have to be older women like me. But definitely there is wisdom in the ages. But I mean, for me, if I'm looking at my life at 60, I was married for 16 years, divorced for 11, and only now just kind of having this awakening. And it's almost like I got stuck at 30 when I got married.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I'm picking up where I left off. Some of that learning now is going on that I missed because I was married. Not being married was bad, but that it was almost stymied some of the wisdom and growth that could have happened outside of it.
Wow.
So that's kind of been fascinating for me to see, because it's like, wow, there's a lot of learning going on over here. And
Yeah.
so it speaks to what you said, we're not done.
No.
Because we're 50 or 60. And who said you can't reinvent yourself or actually hear the calling of what your soul's purpose actually really is today? And there's nothing that says that soul purpose can't change again in another decade or even 5 years from now.
Yeah. I think we go through like one purpose when we're younger, and then you finish it. It doesn't always have to take an entire lifetime. You might be here to do more than one thing, and that's okay. But you're not done just because you hit, your midlife. You're just kind of smart enough and wise enough to get going.
Yeah. And that's who I see a lot, is the woman whose last child just left home for college, and they're standing in the middle of the living room going, well, now what do I do with myself?
Yeah.
They've put so much stock into motherhood.
Yeah.
My comment is, you're never done being a mother. It's just shifted. Who you are as a mother has shifted. They don't need you in the way they did when they were in infants or kindergartners. It's the same as when you went from holding them in your arms and you watched them crawl across the room, right?
Yeah.
But somehow I think, and I primarily work with women, but so this is only coming from that space, but I see this so much in the women that I see. It's like, and then of course in the same vicinity is menopause, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's sort of like a hit to a woman who identifies that way, as somehow her womanhood has no longer exists because she's going through menopause. No, it's just another stage of you as a woman.
Yeah. Again, ushering in the wise woman. And
Yeah.
maybe your kids at that point need you to become the wise woman, and they don't need you to be mommy anymore. It's like shifting that role of who you've always been so that they can grow too.
It's interesting too, because my mother is dying right now. She's 86, lived a beautiful, beautiful life, ready to go, happy as, just she has a little boyfriend. She has 14 grandkids, 5 kids. She's been married, traveled the world, totally at peace with dying, all of that. But as I see her dying, I realize, oh my goodness, that moves me up.
Yeah.
In the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Of women in the family. Oh my gosh,
I do. I lost both my parents. It's different.
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, I thought, wow, okay, I am the highest hierarchy of women in this family when mom dies.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, wow, I better suit up and show up for that.
How do you, and you get to reinvent what that is. Like, she invented her version of it. And then what are you bringing in next? Like, what is the wise woman in you want to create for the family?
And impart.
Yeah. And impart.
And impart. Yeah, that's the thing, and in part.
Yeah.
Because it's, society's so different from when my mother was, even 60 herself, right? To hear about all that, some 20 somethings are going through just completely blows her mind. Like she's very, very understanding of all of it, but it's just unfathomable for her.
Yeah. Different
Some of
world.
it. As it will be for me when I'm 80, I'm sure. The
Yeah.
world is moving so quickly. Right?
Yeah. But that's maybe why you're here also, is to help not just yourself usher in the wise woman within yourself, but to lead your generation of women to say, like, let's step up. What are we leaving our families? What legacy is there? What cycles are we breaking for them? There's so much to do within your family unit, even if you don't have a bigger soul assignment and need to, write a book or whatever. It's like within your own family, are you going to start to break those cycles? Like,
Right.
what can you do? What can you heal?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I love this conversation. I think it's really important for as you keep mentioning in this conversation, just the wise woman. I think it's really important for us to understand the power of women.
Yeah.
The power of women in the world. And just and it's not about women's rights and all of that. Well, of course that's part of it, but I'm talking about the power of influence toward, I hope, toward compassion and understanding and love and tolerance. And that's not woo woo. That's an intention worth fighting for all of us. I think it doesn't matter who you are, because this 20 something generation that I have two of is they're so depressed, and they don't see hope in the world. They feel like, what has my generation left for them? They, watch pipelines going through American Indian territories. They see the pollution in the ocean. They, oil rigs off the coast of Santa Barbara. The potential for nuclear war, just all of it, right? And neither one of my children want to have children. They don't want to bring children into this. Who could blame them, right? There's a part of me that says, who could blame you? And then, of course, there's the other side of me that is always, got the pom-poms out for hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that so much of what you've got to do is just keep bringing that in and inspiring people and having them remember that love, hope, compassion, that is what life is about. And yes, there are people living in an older paradigm where they want things to go back to, 200 years ago, and they would love that. But the fact is, energetically, this planet is moving into the higher ages, and we are feeling a big death rattle from the people that have lower consciousness, wanting to hold on to all of those older things from a couple hundred years ago. And they're holding on tight and they're fighting for it. But the fact is, we are headed into a higher age. It just takes a long time, but it takes effort. We cannot just sit on our butts, watch TV, and have a cocktail and expect womanhood to transform into the wise woman. You've got to try.
Well, and the other piece is that particular generation I'm speaking of, and of course I've got a data point of two, and some of their friends, right? But their idea is, well, it's so far gone. Whatever I do can't possibly make an impact. I'm like, well, we know the saying, if not you, who? Right. So are you actually going to do what you just said, sit around and watch a bunch of Netflix? And
no, I mean us. No, I mean us. I don't mean them. I mean setting the example of bringing in women, because the wise woman isn't here. It's you find it in little sporadic spots. I mean, as a force of men and women. Yeah.
A collective.
collective energy, not the younger generation, because they're not there yet, but us actually, the older generation, leading and rising up and going, wait a minute, we're not going to give up. And you're going to follow our lead, whether it's now or later. You're going to see what a woman in her power can do.
That's right.
Start that example. So it's not really their fault that they're giving up. Who is their example?
Yeah.
You got politicians fighting like children on TV. It's ridiculous. I can't even listen to it. Anywhere you look, the example is that people are not acting like grownups. But what if the wise woman came back, like you said, that feminine energy came back and brought back compassion and tolerance and wisdom? Not just being smart and passing a test in college, but actual wisdom.
Right.
Yeah, that's missing.
Yep. I think so. I think, as you say, in the collective, our collective is what is got to be the thing that makes the impact and the change and the difference. Sure. Yeah. Well, we got way off topic, but I love it. I love
it. Exactly perfect.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, how people can find you, what would be the thing that you would do with them, and how you might be able to incorporate your wisdom into what they're doing.
So you can find me on social media. I'm on Facebook at Mariko Frederick, Instagram, Threads, and my website is Soul Priority, and that's SOUL priority.com. And you can find me there too. There's even a quiz that I have, the Soul Archetype Quiz, to find out which archetype is most activated in you. You can find my book, Soul Priority, on Amazon. And what was it called? What can I help them with? Yeah, I think it really is about finding out what is your purpose? What is your higher purpose? And not just purpose, but your potential. Because you might know your purpose and live it to like 2%. I want people living their purpose to 100% and going all in on themselves and what they're here to do, because it actually takes that much to move and shift the energy into a higher place in this realm. So we can focus on all the negative stuff happening, or we can increase our energy. I mean, like, increase our consciousness and start to share that. And that, spreads throughout.
Well, I also like what you said earlier, and I wanted to just bring that back, is that you may currently be living your soul's purpose, but maybe not to the degree or the potential, or maybe you're living a soul's purpose, but it isn't the soul's purpose that is designed for you in this lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's really cool, because I heard that, what I mean? I heard that, like, for me, like,
I mean, I could say, like, you've got so much, like, I'm sitting here going in front of a wise woman going, what are you doing? Why haven't you started the revolution yet? Where do we go? It's like looking at you going, I
know. Well, part of me is like, well, I am living my life's purpose. Yeah. But you're also making me think, well, maybe I am, but maybe to this, like you said, 2%.
Well, not 2%, but you're not, maybe it's like 85% and you can get to 100. I mean, you're pretty high up there, but it's like, there's always more, because we can always expand into a bigger version of ourselves. So it's not like even when you hit 100%, you're done. I mean, you just keep expanding. The Dalai Lama is not done. I mean, he's still expanding, right? And all of the saints, all of the sages, they don't just finish because they got old. There's somewhere out there expanding into more. And that's our job too. We have this limited belief of 100% is done, or that we have something that's finished. And then what do we do? Like, go sit on a beach in Florida? And I don't know. I'm never retiring from what I'm doing. I'll die, but I won't retire. And same as you. So it's also like, let go of that notion of retiring and doing nothing and feeling worthless, and just like, take a break if you want to, but your soul never retires, even when you leave this world. So get to work. And I think it's actually like more of your message of like, get to work, everybody. Like, it's time to rise up. You're working. I know, I'm familiar, and you're raising people's consciousness, and it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm excited for what you're doing.
Excited about what you do.
Thank you.
So it's been an absolute pleasure and a delight to get to know you, at least just a smidge, Mariko. And here's to living a life illuminated. And we hope to have you back again in the future and continue this really rich conversation.
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.